all the time is, who do you want to go with? The person
you got a guy in prison,
mountain?
you put him through
Right.
meaningful drug rehab, get him clean, get his shit together, and he will now, if you give him the education, give him the training, he will take the next guy and help him along down that road.
Okay,
We
so
all
you get
benefit.
you get my neighbor goes to Walpole, and on drug charges or something, and he gets this wonderful training and education, comes out a certified plumber. Who's going to hire him? Isn't that the secondary problem that stands in the way?
Well, okay,
If I go on the internet, there's his name,
yeah, but see,
he's got a record.
you can make scenarios, right, that, you know, well, you know, this guy's a killer and blah, 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 but who would hire him? Let's look at it from the other perspective. Here's a guy that's qualified to do the plumbing. This guy over here has never been in jail. He'll charge you $1,500. This guy will charge you $600. Who do you want fixing your plumbing? If you're that stupid to go pay $1,500 for something that somebody will charge the same job for $600, shame on you.
And the other thing is that, but I really agree too, that in the community you have to develop resources that employ these people. We know that from things.
Because that's our difficulty, is who's going to hire.
What was really good, Honeywell program, but the Polaroid program, I wish I had statistics on it. Everybody I knew that went to work, that come out and went to work for Polaroid, they didn't return to prison. I could have went to work for Polaroid. I chose not to, and kept doing what I was doing. But they're our company, and that's what has to happen. If you got qualified people coming out, Honeywell proved that. If you have people who are talented and programmers and are in skilled labor and everything, there are companies that really don't care about your record. They know what you are, and they're going to hire you, and they're going to watch you. You know.
But even for the companies that worry, the federal government, right, has bonding for ex-offenders.
Issues, right.
You hire them, they'll bond them, they'll insure him.
They'll insure him. That's
right?
right.
I mean, they'll do their homework and not give it to Mickey Flipperhead. But when they say, we'll bond this guy, you can rest assured that if anything goes wrong with this individual, your ass is covered. Right? And the state should do the same thing.
Yeah, the state should.
The state should do the bonding too. We have a learning curve, right? I mean, a lot of knowledge we have. We know rehabilitation works. We know what rehabilitates, right? And we know the type of individuals that are basically running corrections now don't have that ability and knowledge, right? They haven't a clue. We were talking over 30 years ago about reentry and how important it was, and that it started as soon as a guy came into prison.
Right.
Well, guess what? We're hearing it now, right? Coming from the Department of Corrections.
Right.
But in Massachusetts, who's in the Department of Corrections? When Governor Well came into office, he brought in law and order, hard-nosed people, because he got into office on turning prisons into circles of hell, reintroducing prisoners to the joys of busting rocks. Right? I mean, this was the mentality that he was using. The crime rate did not go down behind his philosophy. The crime rate went up.
Right.
It was wrong, and I mean, you knew it from Jump Street. All right? But what happened is when he brought these people in, all the liberal, bleeding heart, warm, fuzzy correctional people that believed in rehabilitation were forced out of the system. The only people that stayed were those that were willing to violate the rights of prisoners, rip out the programs in violation of what the law is. And what happens is now we're in a situation where we got supposedly a liberal commissioner of correction, a liberal governor, but the people in corrections don't know how to rehabilitate people. We had in Walpole Prison what they called unit manager concept. One individual was in charge of 2 or 3 blocks. All right. After many, many years of this insanity, they finally come around and said, unit management doesn't work. You know, we're getting rid of the unit managed program. They didn't fire or lay off the unit managers.
That failed.
What they turned around and did is these unit managers now have a new label. They are now called by the Department of Corrections re-entry experts.
Right.
You said they were failures as unit managers. Now here's a subject they know absolutely nothing about. Where are they going to get the experience and the knowledge to push for reentry, which is a critical issue.
Right.
It's really super important to society that people are re-entered into the community and become law-abiding citizens. This is public safety we're talking about. Right? We have morons in the, and I have to say it, morons in the Department of Corrections that do not know what they're doing, and they keep telling the people in the news, we are professionals. They are professionals. They are professional failures, nurtured by a system that's been a failure since its inception. We have to get out of the business of prisons.
Right, now what you're talking about in Massachusetts, effectively, that's exactly what's going on here in Connecticut. And we are reaping...
the country.
It's across the country, but terrible. The governor's in a terrible, terrible state. Nobody knows what they're doing. They're letting people out that shouldn't be out, and the crime situation here is absolutely atrocious, and nobody's listening. Nobody's listening to programs. They're housing people. They don't know who to let go, and they don't know what to do.
But see, here's what has to be done. They have to be educated and said, listen, the real potential experts you have behind the walls.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
That's right.
That doesn't mean everybody behind the wall is capable of it, but you have experts that are behind the wall. You get them a bachelor's degree, you get them a master's degree, and this guy can now turn around and tell you in the proper terminology how to straighten this out and tell you why it
Which
doesn't
you had
work.
written a letter to the governor just recently.
Yeah, I did a 7-point plan for the
have an
governor.
advisory panel
Exactly what I
of-
suggested, that of people that have been out, like ourselves, that know and could review people to advise,
Right.
not to let go, to advise the parole board, to advise the governor. I mean, that's while Bobby was in, I was on 3 task force. We had a great governor, Frank Sargent, a Republican, a Republican. That, I mean, he had a first governor that I knew that had ex-offenders. I had been a leader in the movement while I was on patrol, came out on parole. Guys elected me their representative, and I'm advisor to the governor. Three commissions, one of which Elam's in there. The Elam Commission as the first on the Elam, and then I was consultant while we were doing this. I was consultant to John Boone. And I mean, that was like unheard of. I mean, it was like he took advice from, and I had just been out. I was still on parole. John Boone's, one of his administrators, he brought up, Bill Farmer, we were talking about that this morning, was an ex-offender. This man had the foresight and the wisdom to go in when he was down in Lawton, I believe, when he went.
But what happened to John Boone?
They bounced him out.
Why? Because you and him were a threat to the job security of the Department of Corrections staff.
Well, absolutely. Well, exactly.
And that's what you were fighting against. That's what we've always been fighting against.
You were making trouble? That's so unlike you.
Well, I know, but the politics, what is really interesting, and Bobby gets right onto, this is a historical book, and the real politics of what went on, you had ex-offenders out on the street that got educated, that were going to school. I had not completed my master's then, that were at that level and had input into real stuff, Chapter 7-7, real change. Our words are in this thing. Bobby, the group that's in behind, okay, that are educated and everything, were organizing. Not only were they organizing, we crossed all the racial lines. We were way ahead of everybody else. It was about, you're in a foxhole. You didn't worry about whether the guy was black or Puerto Rican or 3,000 Years in Life is going to be really good when that comes back out and shows that, you know, the visual story of this.
Which there is a snippet on YouTube.
You said, yeah, YouTube, and I didn't even know it, and you sent
But
me.
see, what's going to happen is 2003 Life is being digitized and put on a DVD.
Right.
And it was supposed to be part of this book right now, but there was some kind of mechanical problem. In July, it's going to be issued with the book. And the beauty of that is what you're reading in the book, you will see
Right.
on the video. What's being said in the book,
Right.
you'll see. When the guards were on strike, they went around with cameras. The inmates ran the kitchen.
Yeah. I think this is a good time to mention the woman that archived all this material.
Jamie.
And
Oh,
how important that was, and how
The
that...
writer, the person, Jamie was so wonderful. Jamie Bissonette, who's the author and got it together. The lady that was really, that documented all this stuff was Phyllis Ryan. God bless her soul.